At Christmas dinner, my daughter-in-law gave me a mop. "Stop pretending you're sick and clean," she yelled at me. My son added, "Stop using your age as an excuse. You eat here for free every day. At least make the guests happy for us." That night, I packed my clothes in a suitcase and disappeared. But what I did the next day left them pale with fear. I am 68 years old. 68 years of life, of work, of giving everything for my family. And that Christmas Eve, in front of 12 people who were laughing and drinking eggnog, my daughter-in-law, Jessica, handed me a mop wrapped in Christmas paper. At first, I thought it was a joke in poor taste, but when I tore off the gold paper and saw the wooden handle, the gray strings, the smell of cheap chemicals, I felt my stomach empty. The laughter died down. Someone coughed uncomfortably. Jessica stared at me with those bright eyes, waiting for my reaction, like someone waiting for an animal to do a trick. "What is this?" I whispered. "A useful gift, Eleanor," she said, pronouncing my name as if she were spitting out a seed. "Because it's time for you to stop pretending to be sick and clean this house properly." The world stopped. I felt all eyes on me. Jessica's cousin looked down. The neighbor from across the street pretended to check his phone. My son, Mark, my only son, the child I carried for 9 months and raised with my own hands, he remained silent. "Mark," I managed to say, searching for his eyes. He stood up from the table, tall, strong, wearing that new shirt I had ironed for him myself that morning. And when he spoke, his voice was cold, calculated, as if he had been rehearsing those words for weeks. "Mom, my wife is right. Stop using your age as an excuse. You eat here for free every day. The least you can do is entertain the guests for us. Or do you think supporting you doesn't cost anything?" Every word was a knife. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. Something inside me froze, like when water turns to ice and everything is suspended, hard, motionless. I took the mop with trembling hands, nodded, and got up from the table. "Excuse me," I murmured. "I'm going to my room." No one stopped me. I walked down that hallway I had walked 1,000 times in the last 3 years. I passed the family photos where I was still smiling. I went into that small room at the back of the house, the one that used to be the storage room, the only space they had allowed me to occupy when I was widowed, and my son offered to let me live with them. "We need you, Mom," Mark had said with tears in his eyes when his father died. "You can't be alone. Come live with us. We're family. Family." I closed the door and looked around. A twin bed pushed against the wall, a nightstand with my rosary, and a photo of my late husband, Arthur. A tiny closet where my clothes hung crammed together. On the walls, water stains that no one had repaired because that room isn't a priority. 3 years living there, 3 years of being invisible. And that night, while they continued to toast and laugh outside as if nothing had happened, I pulled my old suitcase from the closet. That worn fabric suitcase I used on my honeymoon 46 years ago, when Arthur took me to Florida and we danced on the beach until the sun came up. I began to fold my clothes. Slowly, carefully. Each garment was a memory. The sweater I wore when Mark was born, the blouse I wore to his graduation, the shawl Arthur gave me for our 25th anniversary. My hands were shaking, but not from sadness. They were shaking with rage. Because as I folded, I remembered. I remembered every snub, every comment, every look of contempt I had endured since I set foot in that house. I remembered when Jessica forbade me from using the living room. "It's for guests, not for you to sit in there knitting." I remembered when she yelled at me for using her shampoo. "That costs $30, Eleanor. Use the cheap kind on sale." I remembered when she made me eat in the kitchen because, in the dining room, only the people who work get to eat. I remembered Mark, seeing all of it and saying nothing. And suddenly, as I put my toothbrush in a bag, something fell from the back of the closet, a rusty tin box I had completely forgotten. The box where I kept important documents. I opened it. Inside were yellowed papers, old photographs, receipts, and a manila envelope with a lawyer's seal. I opened it with trembling fingers. Deeds. Deeds to a plot of land on the north side of the city. The land my parents left me when they died 30 years ago. The land that had been tied up in endless legal battles because my brother, Robert, had contested the will, and I, tired and focused on my family, had simply forgotten about it. How many years had that land sat abandoned? I didn't know. But as I read those papers, something lit up in my chest. A spark. A question. What if that land still existed? What if it was worth something? I put the documents in my purse. I finished packing. It was 2 in the morning when I closed the suitcase and sat on the bed one last time. Outside, everything was silent. The guests were gone. Mark and Jessica were surely asleep in their king-size bed, in their air-conditioned master bedroom, in their world where I didn't matter. I put on my coat. I grabbed my suitcase. I slung my purse over my shoulder, and I left. I didn't leave a note. I didn't say goodbye. I didn't make a sound when I closed the door. I simply disappeared. As I walked down the empty street, pulling my suitcase over the cold pavement, I looked back only once. The house was dark. The Christmas lights twinkled in the window as if everything were perfect. But I knew the truth. And in that moment, under the stars of that Christmas morning, I swore I would never be invisible again. If this story has touched your heart, subscribe to the channel to keep discovering real-life testimonies of survival, overcoming, and dignity. Because no one deserves to be treated as less. And now, let me tell you what happened after that night. Oh, what did I discover the next day that made my son and daughter-in-law tremble? What I found was more than just a forgotten piece of land. I walked 4 blocks before my legs gave out. I sat on a bench at a bus stop, gasping for air as if I'd run a marathon. The suitcase at my feet, the December cold biting at my bones. And for the first time in 3 years, I felt something I had forgotten. Freedom. It hurt. God, how it hurt. But it was mine. I pulled out my cell phone with shaking hands. 3 in the morning. Who could I call at this hour? My friends from the old neighborhood hadn't sought me out in years. Mark had made sure to push me away, little by little. Mom, those women just gossip. Mom, it's better if you stay home. It's already dark. Jessica had been more direct. If you're going out, let me know. I don't want you snooping around telling people how we live here. I dialed the only number I knew by heart. My younger sister, Carol. She answered on the 5th ring, her voice sleepy and alarmed. Hello? Who is this? It's me, Carrie. Silence. Then a choked gasp. Eleanor? What happened? Are you okay? Did they do something to you? I need. My voice broke. I need a place to stay. Where are you? On Morello Street, near Mark's house. Don't move. I'm coming for you. Carol arrived 20 minutes later in her old red Chevy, the same one her husband, David, gave her 15 years ago. She got out of the car like a storm, wrapped in a floral robe with her hair disheveled. She hugged me so tight I could barely breathe. I swear I'm going to kill that son of yours, she whispered in my ear. I didn't answer, because if I had spoken right then, I would have fallen apart. The drive to her house was silent. Carol lived on the other side of the city, in a more modest but lively neighborhood. Narrow streets, brightly painted houses, dogs barking on rooftops. The complete opposite of the gated community where Mark lived, with its perfect lawns and electric gates. When we arrived, David already had hot coffee waiting. He sat me at their kitchen table, put a blanket over my shoulders, and didn't ask any questions. He just squeezed my hand. You're safe here, Eleanor. Carol sat across from me, her eyes shining with contained fury. Tell me everything, and don't you dare defend him. So I spoke. I told her about the 3 years. Not just the humiliation of that night, but everything else. The scraps they gave me to eat while they ordered $200 sushi. The times Jessica checked my closet to make sure I wasn't stealing. The day I got sick, and Mark told me, if you go to the doctor, you're paying for it. We're not your health insurance. I told her how I got up at 5 in the morning to clean the house before they woke up. How I cooked, washed, ironed. How Jessica once threw out all my food from the refrigerator because it takes up too much space and smells bad. I told her I hadn't bought new clothes in months, that my shoes were falling apart, that I had sold my gold earrings to pay for medicine when I had the flu, and Mark refused to give me money. I became their maid, Carrie, and the worst part is, I let them. Carol slammed the table so hard the cups jumped. I always knew that Viper was using you, from the day I met her with her fake nails and expensive perfume, but Mark breaks my heart. I changed his diapers when you were working double shifts. I took care of him when he had chicken pox. And this is how he repays you? David intervened with his calm voice. The important thing now is that Eleanor is okay. There will be time to settle accounts later. But Carol wasn't finished. Eleanor, do you remember the land? I froze. What land? Mom and Dad's. The plot they left you in the will. You never sold it, did you? The manila envelope. The papers in my purse. I forgot about it. There were legal problems with Robert. And then you got married. You had Mark. You dedicated yourself to your family. And you forgot you had something of your own, Carol finished. Eleanor, that land is in the northern suburbs. Do you know what's happened there in the last few years? I shook my head. It's the fastest growing commercial area in the city. They've built strip malls, apartment buildings, offices. That land you inherited, if it's still in your name, is worth a fortune. My heart pounded. But the legal issues were never finished. Robert fought for his share. Robert died 5 years ago, Eleanor. And when he died, his share was redistributed among the living heirs, that is, you and me. But since you were the main heir in the original will, if nobody else filed a claim, that land is yours. My hands were shaking. I took the papers out of my purse and spread them on the table. Carol read them carefully, running her fingers over the faded letters. We have to go see a lawyer tomorrow. Mr. Henderson, the one who worked with your husband. Is Mr. Henderson still working? He's 80 years old, but he's still sharp. And he knows you. Trust him. That night I slept in Carol's guest room. A soft bed, a window with clean curtains, a nightstand with a small porcelain angel. So different from that dark storage room where I had spent 1,000 nights feeling like an intruder. But I couldn't sleep. I just stared at the ceiling, remembering how Mark had changed since he married Jessica, how his visits became scarce after the wedding, how, when Arthur died and I was left alone in that big, empty house, Mark appeared with the perfect solution. Come live with us, Mom. You can't be alone. We need you. Did they need me? Or did they need someone to clean their house for free? I remembered something else. Something that didn't seem strange at the time, but now made sense. 6 months after I moved in with them, Jessica started asking questions. Questions about my financial situation, about whether Arthur had left me anything, about whether I had properties or savings. Just curious, mother-in-law. We just want to help you if you need anything. I, innocently, had told her everything. That the house Arthur and I lived in had been sold to pay his medical debts, that his savings had vanished on treatments, that I only had my monthly Social Security check of $700. I never mentioned the land, because I had forgotten it. What if they thought I had nothing? What if that's why they dared to treat me this way? An idea began to form in my head. Dark, twisted, but just. What would happen if they discovered I did have something? That I wasn't the useless old woman they thought I was? I got out of bed. I found the papers again. I read them line by line in the light of my cell phone. And there it was, in the corner of the document, a handwritten note from my father, written in blue ink 30 years ago. For my daughter, Eleanor. May this land give you the freedom you so deserve. Dad. He always knew I would need something of my own. Something no one could take from me. I turned off the light. I lay down. And for the first time in years, I slept without that weight on my chest. Because one thing was clear. My life was about to change. The next day, when I entered Mr. Henderson's law office, I never imagined the news would be much bigger than I expected. And I also never imagined that my son had already been there, asking for information about me. Mr. Henderson's law office was on the second floor of an old downtown building, one of those with worn marble stairs and solid wood doors. Carol came up with me, holding my arm as if she feared I might faint. I wasn't nervous. I was hungry. Hungry for answers. For justice. To know that my life hadn't just been a waste of years serving people who didn't value me. The receptionist, a young woman with modern glasses, showed us in immediately. Mr. Henderson rose from his desk with effort, leaning on an elegant cane. 80 years old, but his gaze was still as sharp as a knife. Eleanor, he said in a gravelly voice. How many years it's been? Too many, Mr. Henderson. I sat across from him. Carol remained standing, nervous. The lawyer adjusted his glasses and held out his hand. "Let's see those documents." I handed him the manila envelope. He opened it slowly, reverently, like someone opening an ancient book. His eyes scanned the deeds, the seals, the signatures. 5 minutes passed in complete silence. Only the ticking of the wall clock and the sound of the pages turning. Finally, he placed the papers on the desk and looked at me intently. "Eleanor, do you know what you have here? A piece of land my parents left me. But the paperwork was never completed because of problems with my brother, Robert. Robert passed away 5 years ago, intestate. His rights were automatically divided among the legal heirs of the original estate, that is, you and Carol. But since you were the primary heir designated by your parents, and Carol never claimed her share, because I didn't need anything," my sister interrupted. "That land was meant for Eleanor from the beginning." The lawyer nodded. "The land is completely in your name, Eleanor. The legal process closed automatically 3 years ago through adverse possession. It's yours. Legally. Totally. Absolutely yours." My heart was beating so loudly I could hear it in my ears. "And, is it worth anything?" Mr. Henderson pulled a folder from his file cabinet. He opened it and showed me maps, recent appraisals, satellite photos. "That land is on a major commercial road, 2 blocks from the new Galleria Mall. It's 5,000 square meters. The land in that area. Eleanor, that land is worth $8,500,000. I tried to do the math in my head. Carol did it faster. $8.5 million, she whispered. The office began to spin. "That can't be." "It can be," the lawyer said with a smile. "And there's more." "More?" "Your husband, Arthur, was a prudent man. When I worked with him years ago, we didn't just write his will. He also established several long-term investment certificates in your name at the bank. Investments that matured 10 years after his death. Arthur died 11 years ago. Exactly. Those investments matured a year ago. I sent letters to the address where you were living with your son, but I never got a response." My blood ran cold. "What letters?" 3 certified letters, the last one 4 months ago, informing you that you had $2,300,000 waiting in a trust account." Carol sank into a chair. My God, I couldn't speak. I couldn't breathe, because suddenly, it all made sense. "Mr. Henderson, did my son Mark come to see you?" Mr. Henderson frowned. "Yes, 4 months ago, right after the last letter. He said he was coming on your behalf because you were in poor health. He wanted to know about your financial situation. And what did you tell him?" "Nothing. I explained that I could only give that information to you directly. He got upset, insisted, threatened me with lawsuits. But I was very clear. Those documents are confidential. Only you could access them." The puzzle pieces began to fit. 4 months ago, right when the treatment at the house got worse, when Jessica started being crueler, when Mark stopped looking me in the eye, when the passive-aggressive comments about the expense of keeping me began. They knew. They didn't know the exact amounts, but they knew I had something, and they wanted me to stay there, submissive, grateful, invisible, until I died and they could inherit it. "Eleanor, are you okay?" Carol asked, shaking my arm. "Yes, I'm." I took a deep breath. "I'm perfect." I stood up, walked to the window. From there I could see the downtown area, the traffic, people walking hurriedly, living their lives. And I had believed I was finished, with no options, no value. I had over $10 million waiting for me. "Mr. Henderson, what do I need to access that money?" "Your official ID and to sign some documents. The process takes a week. And the land? It's already yours, but if you want to sell it, I can contact interested buyers. I have 3 developers who have asked about properties in that area. You could have the money in a month." I turned around. I looked at them both. "I want to sell it. And I want no one, absolutely no one, to know about this yet." Carol smiled. It was a smile I knew well, the same one she'd get when we were girls planning some mischief. "What are you thinking, sister?" "I'm thinking that my son and daughter-in-law thought I was poor, weak, and useless. And it's time to show them who I really am." Mr. Henderson leaned back in his chair, his eyes bright with amusement. Arthur once told me that when you set your mind to something, you move heaven and earth. I see he wasn't lying. My husband knew me well. I signed papers for 2 hours. Authorizations, powers of attorney, bank documents. When we finished, the lawyer shook my hand. In 1 week, you'll have full access to your money, Eleanor. And in a month, if all goes well with the land sale, you will be a very wealthy woman. We left the office when the sun was already high. Carol hugged me right there on the street, not caring if people looked. I can't believe it. I can't believe that disgrace Mark treated you like that, knowing you had money. He didn't know how much. That's why he went asking. So what are you going to do now? I paused. The cold December air brushed my face. In the distance, a street vendor was yelling. A young couple walked by, holding hands. Life went on for everyone, and it would for me, too. First, I'm going to rest, to process all this. Then, I'm going to teach them that the worst decision they ever made was to underestimate a wounded mother. Carol looked at me with concern. Don't do anything crazy, Eleanor. I'm not going to do anything illegal, Carrie. I'm just going to give them a lesson they will never forget. That night, back at my sister's house, I sat in the guest room with my cell phone in my hand. I had 52 missed calls from Mark, 38 WhatsApp messages. I read every one. The first ones were angry. Where are you? Stop being dramatic and come back to the house. This is ridiculous. It's Christmas and you're making us look bad. If you don't come back, don't ever ask for help again. Then they changed to feigned concern. Mom, we're worried. Are you okay? It doesn't matter what happened. It's Christmas. Come back and we'll talk. Jessica feels terrible about what she said. It was the stress of the dinner. And the last ones. Pure manipulation. Mom, if you don't come back, we're going to have to report you as missing. You're putting us in a very difficult situation. People are asking, are you really going to do this to us? After everything we've done for you? I didn't answer any of them. Instead, I opened the camera and took a photo of myself. I was sitting in a comfortable bed with a cup of hot tea in my hands, a blanket over my shoulders. I looked tired, yes, but calm, at peace. I sent the photo to Mark with a single message. I'm fine. Stop looking. His reply came in seconds. Where are you? We need to talk. I turned off the phone because I had nothing left to talk to him about. Not yet. First, I needed to recover, to heal, to prepare. And when I was ready, when I held all the cards, then, yes, I would show them what it feels like when someone you love turns their back on you. But what I didn't know was that Mark and Jessica wouldn't just sit back, and what they did next was the straw that broke the camel's back. 3 days passed. 3 days in which I didn't answer a single call. 3 days in which Mark bombarded my phone with increasingly desperate messages. 3 days in which, for the first time in years, I slept through the night without waking up with anxiety. Carol treated me like I was made of glass. She made me breakfast. She walked with me in the park. She lent me her clothes because I had only packed the basics. David, her husband, never asked questions. He just squeezed my shoulder every time he passed by and said, "This is your home, Eleanor." But peace doesn't last when there are people who can't stand losing control over you. On the 4th day, Carol came into my room, phone in hand, her face pale. "Eleanor, you have to see this." She showed me her Facebook. Jessica had posted a photo of me, the one they had taken at Christmas dinner, right before they gave me the mop. I was sitting at the table, looking serious, my shoulders slumped. I looked exactly like what I was, a tired, aged, invisible woman. The text read, "This is hard to share, but I need to vent. My mother-in-law abandoned our home on Christmas Eve without saying a word. We welcomed her for 3 years with love. We gave her shelter, food, and care. But when we asked her to help with household chores, something normal in any family, she got offended and left. Now we don't know where she is. If anyone sees her, please let us know. We are very worried. Hashtags, toxic family, problematic mothers-in-law, Christmas." It had 143 comments. I read a few. Most were supportive of Jessica. "Oh, honey, how awful. Mothers-in-law are always such drama. That's how that generation is. They think they're owed everything. You did a lot putting up with her for 3 years. I couldn't have. But there were others who defended me. Wait, I was at that dinner. You're not telling them you gave her a mop as a Christmas gift in front of everyone. Are we really supposed to believe a woman in her late 60s left on a whim? Something else happened there. I know that family. The lady worked like a dog in that house and they never treated her well. Carol was furious. That witch is trying to make you look like the crazy one, like you're the problem. I said nothing. I just kept reading. Because among all those comments, one caught my eye. It was from Betty, my neighbor from the old neighborhood, the woman who used to sell me flowers every Sunday to take to Arthur's grave. Jessica, I've known Eleanor for 30 years. She is one of the kindest women I've ever met. If she left your house, it was for a very good reason. And the mop thing was a cruelty we all saw. Don't try to play the victim now. I felt something warm in my chest. There were still people who remembered me, who knew who I really was. Are you going to respond? Carol asked. No. What do you mean, no? She's dragging your name through the mud. Let her talk. Let her say whatever she wants. When the time comes, everyone will know the truth. But Carol was right about one thing. Jessica wasn't going to stop, and neither was Mark. That same afternoon, my son showed up at Carol's house. David answered the door. I was in the bedroom, but I could hear everything. The walls in that house were thin. I need to see my mom, Mark said. His voice sounded tense, controlled. She's not available, David replied firmly. She's my mother. I have a right to see her. She will decide when she wants to see you. Respect that. You don't understand. My wife is very upset. People are talking. We need to resolve this. What you need to do is reflect on how you treated her. There was a long silence. Then, Mark's voice changed. It became lower, more dangerous. Tell her that if she doesn't come back, we'll have to take legal action. Carol appeared at that moment. I heard her from the room. Legal action? What legal action, Mark? Your mother owes you nothing. She didn't steal anything. She did nothing wrong. She left because you and that woman treated her like trash. You don't know what happened in my house. I know you gave her a mop for Christmas. I know you humiliated her in front of everyone. I know you treated her like a servant. You want me to keep going? My wife was stressed. It was a misunderstanding that lasted 3 years. Mark lost his composure. My mother is acting like a spoiled child, all over a stupid gift. It's ridiculous. What's ridiculous is that you don't understand why she left. Carol's voice was ice. Now get out of my house before I call the police. This isn't over. You're right. It's not. I heard the door slam. Mark's footsteps on the stairs. The engine of his truck starting. Carol came into my room. Her eyes were red, but not from sadness. From rage. That boy is lost, Eleanor. Completely lost. I got up from the bed. I walked to the window. From there I could see Mark's truck driving away. A brand new black Ram truck with chrome rims. He had bought it 6 months ago. A $5,000 down payment, he had told me. But it was worth it, Mom. It's important to project a good image. A good image. While I wore worn-out shoes and ate leftovers. Carrie, can I borrow your computer? What for? I need to look something up. Half an hour later, I was reading Jessica's entire social media profile. Not just Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. This woman documented her entire life online. And what I found left me cold. Photos from expensive restaurants. Date night with my love. Photos at a luxury gym. Taking care of myself for him. Photos of designer clothes. Treating myself because I deserve it. Photos at spas, at beauty salons, on trips to the beach. All while they were telling me there was no money to buy me a new pair of shoes. But there was something else. Something that caught my eye. In her highlighted Instagram stories, there was a section called Our Home. I clicked it. And there they were. Photos of the inside of Mark's house. The living room I wasn't allowed to use. The dining room where I couldn't sit. The kitchen with stainless steel appliances. And one photo, in particular, broke my heart. It was my room. The storage room where I slept. But the caption said, "Future project, converting this space into a walk-in closet. It's almost empty. It's almost empty. They were waiting for me to die, or waiting to kick me out. Carol read over my shoulder and gasped, "That witch, she was planning to throw you out." I closed the laptop. I stared at the wall. And then something inside me changed. I no longer felt sadness. I no longer felt pain. I felt fury, cold, calculated, lethal. "Carrie, tomorrow I'm going to do something." "What?" "I'm going to rent an apartment." "What for?" "You're fine here." "Because I need my own space. And because I need Mark and Jessica to believe that I am finished, that I left because I have nowhere else to go, that I'm vulnerable." Carol looked at me, narrowing her eyes. "What are you planning?" "Justice, sister. Simply justice." That night, before sleeping, I opened my phone. I had a new message from Mark. It was no longer threatening or falsely concerned. It was direct. "Mom, I know you're with Aunt Carol. I just want you to know something. The house where we live has a $320,000 mortgage. If we don't pay it in 3 months, we lose it. Jessica and I have done everything we can, but we can't make it. I thought you could help us. I know Dad left you something. We just need a loan. We'll pay you back as soon as we're back on our feet. Please, Mom. We're family." I read the message 3 times, and then I let out a laugh. A bitter, dry laugh that surprised even me. There it was. The naked truth. They didn't want me back because they missed me. They wanted me back because they needed my money. I replied calmly, choosing each word. "Mark, when you gave me that mop, you taught me that to you. I am only worth what I can do. Now you're writing to me because you need money. Do you see the pattern? I'm not your mother. I'm your resource. And I'm sorry to tell you, that resource has run dry. Solve your own problems." I sent the message. I turned off the phone. And for the first time in 3 years, I fell asleep with a smile on my lips. But what I didn't know was that Mark, desperate, would make a decision that would change everything. And when I found out what he did, I knew there was no turning back. The apartment I rented was in a quiet neighborhood, far from Mark's gated community. It was small. 1 bedroom, a small living room with an integrated kitchen, a full bathroom. Nothing luxurious, but it was mine. The walls were white. The windows overlooked a park where children played in the afternoons. And for the first time in years, I could breathe without feeling like someone was watching me. I moved in with the little I had. Carol helped me buy some basic things: plates, sheets, a coffee maker. She insisted on giving me a ceramic angel for the entryway. "To protect you," she said, hugging me. I didn't tell her about the money. Not yet. I wanted to keep everything secret until the right moment. A week after I moved in, Mr. Henderson called me. "Eleanor, come to the office. There's something you need to know." His voice sounded serious, worried. I arrived that same afternoon. Mr. Henderson was waiting for me with a blue folder on his desk. He looked older than the last time, as if something was weighing on him. "Sit down, please." Saturday. My heart was already pounding. "What is it, Mr. Henderson?" He opened the folder and took out some papers. They were copies of applications, official forms with stamps. Mark came by again 2 days ago. This time, he brought a lawyer. They tried to file a petition for conservatorship against you. The word hit me like a fist. Conservatorship? They wanted to declare you mentally incompetent to make financial decisions. They argued that you have severe cognitive decline and that you abandoned your home for no apparent reason. The goal was for Mark to be named your legal guardian so he could manage your assets. The world stood still. But I'm perfectly fine. I know. That's why I rejected the petition immediately and warned them that if they tried anything like that again, I would report them for attempted fraud. But Eleanor, this is serious. Your son is desperate, and a desperate person is capable of anything. My hands were shaking. I hid them under the table. Why is he so desperate? Mr. Henderson took out more papers. Bank statements, public records. I did a little research, with your implicit authorization as my client. The house where Mark lives has a $320,000 mortgage with the bank. They are 4 months behind on payments. The bank has already begun foreclosure proceedings. In 2 months, if they don't pay, they lose the house. He told me. He asked me for money. There's more. Jessica has $70,000 in credit card debt. They're flagged by the credit bureaus as high risk, and 3 months ago they applied for a personal loan that was rejected. Every word was another piece of the puzzle. So, when did the treatment toward me get worse? According to my records, I sent the first letter about your investments 8 months ago. Mark came asking 4 months ago. Did the abuse increase during that period? I closed my eyes. I remembered. The worst humiliations had started about 6 months ago. The comments about me being a burden, the food restrictions, the Christmas mop. Yes, it all got worse in those months. Because they knew you had money, but they couldn't access it. They tried to keep you submissive, dependent, grateful, and when that didn't work, when you left, they panicked. Mr. Henderson took off his glasses and looked me straight in the eye. Eleanor, you need to protect yourself, legally, now. How? First, we're going to draft a new will. One that makes it very clear you are of sound mind and making your own decisions freely. Second, we're going to appoint witnesses to certify your mental state. And third, we are going to proceed with the sale of the land as quickly as possible, before Mark tries to block it. Can he do that? He can try. He can file baseless lawsuits that delay the process. That's why we must act quickly. We spent 3 hours in that office. I signed documents. I gave recorded testimonies. Mr. Henderson brought in 2 independent witnesses, a doctor and a social worker, who evaluated me to certify that I was mentally competent. When we finished, I was exhausted, but also relieved. The land is sold, Mr. Henderson said as he put the papers away. The development company accepted the offer. $8,500,000. The money will be in your account in a week. And Arthur's investments? They are already available. You just need to go to the bank to sign. $2,300,000. $10,800,000. It was more money than I had ever seen in my life. Mr. Henderson, do you know what I'm going to do with this? He smiled tiredly. No. What are you going to do? I'm going to live. I'm going to live with dignity. And I'm going to teach my son and that woman that a mother's love is not bought, not begged for, and not trampled on. Your husband would be proud. I left the office as it was getting dark. Downtown was full of people leaving work, street vendors yelling, the smell of fried food and bus exhaust. But I walked as if I were floating, because for the first time in years, my future depended only on me. I got to my apartment and made myself some tea. I sat on the small sofa Carol had given me and opened my phone. I had new messages from Mark. They were no longer pleas. They were thinly veiled threats. Mom, I know Mr. Henderson is putting ideas in your head. He just wants your money. Don't trust strangers. Trust your family. Jessica is very upset by all this. She had to go to a psychologist. If something happens to her, it will be your fault. People in the old neighborhood are asking about you. They're saying horrible things. Is that what you want? To destroy this family's name? I blocked his number. But I didn't block Betty, my old neighbor. She had written to me too. Eleanor, I don't know if you'll see this message, but I want you to know something. Your son was in the neighborhood asking if anyone knew where you were. He seemed very nervous. He also asked if you had any friends or acquaintances who might be helping you financially. I told him I didn't know anything, but it gave me a bad feeling. Please, take care of yourself. I replied. Thank you, Betty. I'm fine, and don't worry. I know how to take care of myself. That night I couldn't sleep, not from anxiety but from rage. My son, the child I had held in my arms, whom I had cared for when he had pneumonia at age 5, whom I had fed with the money I earned cleaning other people's houses when Arthur was just starting out. That son was trying to declare me crazy to steal from me. It wasn't sadness I felt. It was disappointment, deep, painful, irreparable. But it was also clarity, because now I knew there was no going back. There was no reconciliation possible. There was no family to save. There was only a mother who needed to defend herself, and a lesson that had to be taught. I got out of bed. I went to the kitchen. I took out a notebook and a pen, and I started to write. It wasn't a plan for revenge. It was a plan for justice. Point 1. Secure all the money in accounts Mark couldn't touch. Point 2. Rebuild my life with dignity, far from toxic people. Point 3. When the time was right, when Mark and Jessica were at the edge of the cliff, then I would show them who I really was. Not to hurt them, so they would learn. I closed the notebook, turned off the light, and fell asleep with the certainty that the game was just beginning. But while I was planning in silence, Mark and Jessica took a step that crossed every line. And when I found out what they told people, I knew it was time to act. The money arrived in my account on a Tuesday morning. I was drinking coffee in my small kitchen when my phone vibrated with the notification from the bank. Wire transfer received. $10,800,000. I stared at the screen for 5 full minutes. The numbers seemed unreal, as if they would disappear if I blinked. But they didn't. I called Mr. Henderson immediately. Mr. Henderson, the money is here. Perfect. Now listen to me carefully, Eleanor. Divide that money into several accounts, not all in one place, and use the bank's private banking services. You need extra protection. Protection? If Mark tries any legal maneuvers, we want it to be clear that this money is well managed and that you are in full control of your decisions. I followed his instructions to the letter. That same afternoon, I went to the bank. A young, elegant executive helped me, and when she saw the amount in my account, her entire demeanor changed. Mrs. Herrera, it will be an honor to assist you. Have you considered investment options? 3 hours later, I left the bank with everything organized. $4 million in fixed-term investments, $3 million in a high-yield savings account, $2 million in an accessible checking account, and $1,800,000 in another account for expenses and emergencies. I felt powerful, not because of the money itself, but because of the security it gave me, the freedom. I walked through the nearby mall. It had been years since I'd entered a clothing store without looking at the price tags. Years since I'd bought myself something simply because I liked it. I went into a boutique. A saleswoman approached with a professional smile. "Good afternoon, ma'am. Are you looking for anything in particular?" "Yes. I'm looking to see the woman I am, not the woman they made me believe I was." She blinked, confused. Then she smiled with understanding. "I understand perfectly. Come with me." I left with 4 bags. New clothes, comfortable but elegant shoes, a wool coat the color of wine. I spent $1,200 without blinking. Then I went to the salon. I cut the hair I had worn long and neglected for years. The stylist, a young woman with purple streaks, advised me, "How about a bob to your shoulders? It would give you a fresh, more youthful look. Do it." 2 hours later, I left with a modern cut, my hair colored to cover the gray, feeling 30 years younger. Back in my apartment, I saw myself in the elevator mirror and didn't recognize the woman looking back at me. That woman stood up straight, her gaze firm, a slight but confident smile on her lips. That woman no longer asked permission to exist. The following days were about reconstruction. I joined a book club that met on Thursdays at the local library. There I met Beatrice, a 72-year-old woman with a sharp wit and a contagious laugh. "Eleanor, right? Carol told me about you," she said as we had coffee after the session. "You know my sister? For years. She told me what you went through. And let me tell you something. Any child who treats his mother like that doesn't deserve the name he carries." I liked her immediately. It was Beatrice who, 2 weeks later, gave me the information that changed everything. We were at her house, drinking chamomile tea and eating oatmeal cookies, when her face turned serious. "Eleanor, I need to tell you something, but you have to promise me you won't do anything crazy." My heart skipped a beat. "What is it?" "Jessica has been saying things, ugly things." "What kind of things?" Beatrice took out her phone and showed me a WhatsApp group. It was called Val Dorado Gated Community Neighbors. I had lived there when I was with Mark, but they had never included me in that group. She scrolled to find the messages. They were from Jessica, from 3 days ago. "Ladies, I need your advice. My mother-in-law stole money from us and disappeared. We've tried to talk to her, but she has us blocked. We're considering pressing charges. Does anyone know a good lawyer?" I felt my blood boil. I kept reading the replies. "Oh no, honey. How much did she steal? How awful. Mothers-in-law are always problematic. I know a lawyer who specializes in family fraud. I'll send you his contact. But there were other messages too. Messages that surprised me. Jessica, I saw how you treated your mother-in-law. I don't think she's the bad guy here. Wait, isn't she the one you gave a mop to at Christmas in front of everyone? My husband was at that dinner and told me. If your mother-in-law left, it was for a reason. And honestly, I'm not surprised. Jessica had replied angrily. You don't know anything about what happened in my house. Eleanor was always manipulative. She faked being sick so she wouldn't have to work. She drained us of every last penny. Beatrice took the phone from my hands. That's enough. You don't need to read any more. She's saying I stole from her. And half the group doesn't believe her. But Eleanor, this is serious. If she files a false police report, let her file it. Beatrice looked at me, surprised. What? Let her file the report. Let her say whatever she wants. Because when the time comes, I will prove to everyone who the liar is. Do you have proof? I smiled. A cold smile that surprised even me. I have something better. I have the truth. And I have the resources to defend it. That night, back in my apartment, I took out the notebook where I'd written my plan. I added a new point. Point 4. Let them sink themselves. Do not intervene. Just observe. Because I had realized something. Mark and Jessica were so desperate they were making mistakes. Public mistakes. Mistakes that made them look exactly like what they were. Bankrupt manipulators. The next day, Carol called me, hysterical. Eleanor, Mark came to my house and threatened me. What did he say? He said if I didn't tell him where you were, he would sue me for aiding and abetting. I told him to go to hell. David almost threw him out bodily. He's desperate. And you're okay? I'm perfect, Carrie. Better than ever. Eleanor, that tone of voice scares me. Don't be scared. Just trust me. I hung up and stared out the window. Outside, the children were playing in the park. An elderly couple walked by, holding hands. Life went on, oblivious to personal dramas. My phone vibrated. It was a message from an unknown number. Mrs. Eleanor, I am Mr. Torres, your son, Mark Herrera's attorney. I would like to speak with you about a possible family reconciliation and discuss some pending financial matters. Could we meet? So, they had hired a lawyer. I forwarded the message to Mr. Henderson. His reply came in minutes. Do not reply. All communication will be through me. I'll handle this. I slept peacefully that night. Because I knew Mark was doing exactly what I expected. Moving in a panic, without a strategy, leaving a trail of evidence of his desperation. And while he was sinking, I was rising. I had gone from being the invisible old woman, the burden, the one who ate for free, to being a woman with resources, with dignity, with a plan. And the best part was, they had no idea what was coming for them. But then, something I didn't expect happened. Mark made a decision so low, so sleazy, that I knew there was no redemption possible. And it was in that moment that I decided the time had come to teach them the lesson they would never forget. The message arrived on a Friday afternoon. It wasn't from Mark. It was from a number I recognized immediately, though I hadn't seen it in years. My cousin Margaret, my late husband Arthur's sister. Eleanor, I need to talk to you. It's urgent. Please, call me. Margaret lived in Arizona. We hadn't seen each other since Arthur's funeral. We were close once, but distance and life had pulled us apart. Why was she writing to me now? I dialed her number warily. Margaret? Eleanor, thank God you answered. Her voice was distraught. I need to tell you something. Mark called me yesterday. My blood ran cold. What did he say? He told me you're very sick, that you have advanced dementia and you ran away from home, that they're desperately looking for you because you need medication and special care. He asked me to tell him immediately if I heard anything from you. I closed my eyes. I breathed deeply. Margaret, did you believe him? There was a long pause. At first, yes. I was terrified. But then I thought, if Eleanor is that sick, why hasn't Mark filed an official report? Why hasn't he gone to the police? So I called you to find out the truth. The truth is, I am perfectly healthy. What I have is recovered dignity. I told her everything. I omitted nothing. The mop, the abuse, the humiliations, the conservatorship attempt, the lies. Margaret listened in silence, and when I finished, I heard her sobbing. Arthur would be spinning in his grave if he knew. He adored Mark, but he adored you too. He always said, "Eleanor is the strongest woman I know, but she acts gentle so she doesn't hurt anyone." Your brother knew me well. What are you going to do? Something I should have done a long time ago. Put myself first. If you need anything, anything at all, count on me. Thank you, Margaret. But I'm fine. Better than ever. I hung up and just thought. Mark was calling all our relatives, planting the seed that I was sick, crazy, incapacitated, preparing the ground to justify whatever legal action he wanted to take. He was smart, but not as smart as he thought. 2 days later, Mark showed up at my apartment. I don't know how he got the address. He probably followed Carol or paid someone to investigate me. But there he was, knocking on my door on a Sunday morning. I looked through the peephole. He looked haggard. Dark circles under his eyes. He had lost weight. The shirt he was wearing was wrinkled. I didn't open it right away. I let him knock 3 more times. Then, calmly, I slid the deadbolt. "Mom," his voice broke. "Thank God you're okay." I didn't return the hug he tried to give me. I stepped aside and let him in. My apartment was small but dignified, clean, organized, with fresh flowers on the table. A completely different world from that storage room where they had kept me. Mark looked around, wide-eyed. "You live here?" "Yes, it's mine, rented with my own money." "But how? Where did you get?" "Sit down, Mark." He sat on the small sofa. I remained standing. I wasn't going to give him the advantage of height. "What do you want?" "Mom, I came to ask for your forgiveness." Tears started to roll down his cheeks. "I know we messed up. I know we treated you badly. Jessica was stressed with work, with the house expenses. And I was under a lot of pressure too. But we never wanted to hurt you." What a performance. Almost convincing. And the mop? It was a horrible mistake. Jessica has cried 1,000 times over it. She's destroyed. She's been to a psychologist, to therapy. She realizes she was wrong. "I see. Mom, please. We're family. We can't end like this." I sat down across from him. I looked him in the eyes. Those eyes that had looked at me with adoration as a child, and now only reflected desperation. "Tell me the truth, Mark. Why did you really come here?" He looked down. "We're in trouble." "What kind of trouble?" "The house? We're going to lose it. The bank already gave us the final notice. If we don't pay $180,000 in the next 3 weeks, they foreclose. We'll be on the street." There it was, the naked truth. "And what do you expect me to do?" Mark looked up, and in his eyes, I saw something that broke my heart. Not remorse, hope. Hope that I would save him. "Mom, I know Dad left you money. Mr. Henderson wouldn't tell me how much, but I know there's something. We just need a loan. We'll pay you back as soon as we're back on our feet. I swear to God. And if I don't lend it to you?" "Mom, we're your family. I'm your only son. My only son gave me a mop for Christmas and told me I ate for free. I already apologized for that." "Your apology doesn't erase the pain, Mark." He stood up, disparity. "Then what do you want? For me to kneel? For me to beg? I'll do it. Whatever it takes. But please, help us." I looked at him for a long moment, and then I did something that surprised myself. I pretended to hesitate. "I don't know, Mark. It's a lot of money." I know. But we'll pay you back. With interest if you want. I need to think about it." "How much time do you need?" "A week." His face lit up. He really thought he had convinced me. "Thank you, Mom. Thank you. You don't know what this means to us." I walked him to the door. Before he left, he tried to hug me again. This time I let him, but his hug felt like what it was, the trap of a desperate hunter. When he left, I called Mr. Henderson. "Mr. Henderson, Mark came to ask me for money. Did you tell him no?" I told him I'd think about it. Silence on the other end. "Eleanor, what are you planning?" "I'm going to give them what they want. But with conditions." "What kind of conditions?" "My conditions." The next few days were meticulous preparation. Mr. Henderson and I designed a document, a family loan contract with very specific clauses, and a new, ironclad will, with witnesses and medical certifications stating I was of sound mind. I also did something else. Something that hurt, but was necessary. I hired a private investigator. I need you to find out everything about my son and his wife's financial situation, I told the man, a 50-year-old guy with a face that had seen it all. Debts, expenses, bank movements, anything you can legally obtain. Are you looking for anything specific? I want to know if they've lied about anything, if there are hidden expenses, if there's anything that doesn't add up to their sob story. The investigator delivered his report 5 days later, and what I found confirmed everything I needed to know. Jessica had spent $12,000 in the last year on cosmetic treatments, designer clothes, and trips. Mark had bought an $8,000 motorcycle 3 months ago that he was hiding at a friend's house. They had completely renovated their master bedroom and bathroom with $20,000 in luxury finishes, all while telling me they didn't have money for my shoes. I put the report in a folder, and I waited. On Saturday, Mark returned, this time with Jessica. She wore a simple dress, no makeup, her hair pulled back, trying to look humble, repentant. "Eleanor," she said with a trembling voice, "I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. What I did was unforgivable. But I swear I've changed. I've been in therapy. I've worked on myself. I'm just asking for one chance to prove it to you." What a great actress. "Sit down," I said. They sat together on the sofa, holding hands, the perfect couple in crisis. I took out the documents Mr. Henderson had prepared. "If I'm going to lend you this money, it will be under my conditions." "Whatever they are," Mark said immediately. "First, this is a loan, not a gift. You will sign a legal promissory note. You have 2 years to pay it back with 10% annual interest." "Perfect." "Second, as collateral, the house will be put in my name until the loan is paid in full." Mark turned pale. "Mom, that's what happens when you borrow money. It's called collateral." Jessica squeezed his hand. "It's okay, Mark. The important thing is not to lose the house. Third," I continued, "if you miss a single payment, I take possession of the property immediately. No appeals." "Mom, that's so harsh. Life is harsh, son. Do you accept or not?" They looked at each other. Jessica nodded first. Mark, his jaw tight, also nodded. "We accept, then sign." They signed. Every page, every clause. Mr. Henderson had come as a witness, along with Carol and David. When they finished, Mark looked at me with watery eyes. "Thank you, Mom. You don't know how much this means." "Oh, trust me," I said, with a smile they didn't like. "I know exactly what it means." I transferred them the $180,000 that afternoon. They left my apartment relieved, thinking they had won. But they didn't know that I had just set the perfect trap, because in that contract there was a clause they hadn't read carefully, a clause that said, "In the event the debtor is found to have lied about their financial situation or made luxury expenditures during the loan period, the loan becomes due in full immediately." And I had an investigator's report that proved exactly that. Carol looked at me when everyone had left. "Sister, what did you do?" "I gave them enough rope to hang themselves. And now, I wait. And when the time is right, I cut the rope." What Mark and Jessica didn't know was that my revenge wouldn't be loud. It would be served cold, legal, and devastatingly effective. And when it came time to collect, no one was going to save them. 6 weeks passed. 6 weeks in which Mark and Jessica paid off the mortgage arrears and breathed a sigh of relief, believing they had saved their perfect world. 6 weeks in which I dedicated myself to completely rebuilding my own. I enrolled in yoga classes. I started walking in the park every morning. I rediscovered my passion for painting, something I had abandoned when I got married. I bought canvases, brushes, oil paints. My small apartment filled with color. Beatrice became my confidant. We had coffee every Thursday after the book club, and she listened without judging. "You look different, Eleanor," she told me one day. "Like you've had a weight lifted off your shoulders." "I've lifted several million, to be exact." She let out a laugh that made the whole coffee shop turn. But it wasn't all peace. Mark called me every week, always with the same fake tone of a repentant son. "Mom, how are you? I miss you so much." "I'm fine, Mark. When are you coming to visit? The house feels empty without you." Lies. All lies. Because the private investigator kept sending me reports, and in those reports, I saw the truth. Jessica had posted a photo on Instagram of her new walk-in closet. My old room, the storage room where I slept for 3 years, was now a dressing room full of designer shoes and bags. The photo had a caption: "Finally finished the remodel. Sometimes changes are necessary. Number blessed." The comments were predictable. "Looks gorgeous, friend. You deserve it." "What about your mother-in-law?" Jessica had replied to that last one. "She's better off where she is." It's a win-win. I saved screenshots of everything. It was mid-February when I decided the time had come. The time for the first revelation. I called Mark. "Son, I want to invite you to dinner. You and Jessica." Surprised silence on the other end. "Really, Mom? Really?" "To talk about the future. I think it's time we fix things as a family." "I'd love that." "When?" "This Saturday. At the Casa Bella restaurant, downtown. At 8 o'clock in the evening. We'll be there." "Thank you, Mom. This means so much." I hung up and dialed Mr. Henderson. "Mr. Henderson, I need you to be at the Casa Bella restaurant this Saturday at 8, discreetly, at a separate table. As a witness. Is something going to happen?" "The truth is going to happen." On Saturday, I arrived at the restaurant half an hour early. Casa Bella was an elegant place, but not flashy. White tablecloths, candles on the tables, live piano music. I had reserved a table in the corner, private but visible. Mr. Henderson was already there, at a table across the room, reading a newspaper. He gave me a discreet nod. Mark and Jessica arrived on time. She wore a simple black dress, soft makeup. He, a navy blue sport coat, trying to look respectable. "Mom." Mark kissed my cheek. "You look great, thank you." "Sit down." We ordered dinner. I ordered salmon. They, expensive steaks. Of course. During the appetizers, we made small talk. The weather. The news. Jessica asked about my apartment with false interest. "Is it comfortable where you're living, Eleanor?" "Very comfortable." "It's small, but it's mine. I can breathe." She caught the emphasis on breathe and looked away. When the main course arrived, I decided to begin. "Mark, I want to talk about the loan." He tensed up. "Of course, Mom. Everything is going great. We're going to start paying you back in March, just like we agreed." "I'm glad to hear that. But there's something I need to clarify." I took a folder from my purse. I placed it on the table. Jessica eyed it warily. "What is that?" "Information I obtained completely legally." I opened the folder. I took out the investigator's reports, the Instagram screenshots. The bank records the investigator had acquired through public sources. "Mark, do you remember telling me you were bankrupt? That you didn't even have money for food?" "Mom, I never said." "You did. And so did Jessica. You told me you were desperate, that it was all because of the mortgage, that you had done everything possible to pay." I put the photo of the walk-in closet on the table. "Is this doing everything possible?" Jessica turned white. That's old. It's dated 3 weeks ago. Right after I lent you the money." I put down more photos. Jessica at a spa. Mark at a sushi restaurant with friends. Receipts from department stores. "You spent over $10,000 in the last 2 months. On luxuries, while you were telling me you couldn't afford to eat." Mark tried to grab the papers. I stopped him with my hand. "Don't touch them. They're copies. The originals are with my lawyer. Mom, it's a misunderstanding." "A misunderstanding?" My voice rose just enough for the nearby tables to turn. "Is lying to me a misunderstanding? Is treating me like trash while you live like royalty a misunderstanding?" Jessica tried to stand up. Mark pulled her back down. "Eleanor, it's not what it looks like. Sit down," I ordered. Something in my tone made her obey. "I'm going to tell you something I should have told you a long time ago. You didn't need me. You used me. You had me for 3 years cleaning your house, cooking your food, enduring your humiliations. And when I was no longer useful as a servant, you wanted me to be useful as a bank. Mom, please. I'm not finished, Mark. I stood up. I looked down on them. Do you know what it feels like to have your own son tell you that you eat for free? To treat you like you're a burden? I gave you life. I took care of you when you were sick. I worked double shifts to pay for your college. And you paid me back with a mop. Tears began to roll down my cheeks, but not from weakness, from liberated rage. That mop was the best gift you ever gave me, because it woke me up. It made me see that I was worth more than what you made me believe. Mark's face was red. If you hate us so much, why did you lend us the money? I smiled, a cold smile that made Jessica flinch. Because I wanted to teach you a lesson, and because I wanted you to sign a contract that now has you exactly where I want you. What are you talking about? I took out the contract they had signed. I pointed to the fine print. Read this. Read it out loud so it's clear. Mark took the paper with trembling hands. He read, "In the event the debtor is found to have lied about their financial situation or made luxury expenditures during the loan period, the loan becomes due in full immediately with a 30% surcharge." The silence was absolute. "That means," I continued, "that you now owe me $234,000, payable in 30 days, or you lose the house." Jessica let out a choked cry. "You can't do that." "Of course I can. You signed it. It's legal. And I have proof that you lied about your financial situation." I leaned over the table. I looked them both in the eye. "But do you know what the saddest part of all this is? It's not that you lied to me. It's not that you used me. It's that I was willing to forgive you. I really wanted to believe that my son still had some of the decency I raised him with. But you didn't change. You kept lying. You kept spending. You kept disrespecting me." Mark tried to speak. I held up a hand for silence. "I'm not finished. Because there's something else you need to know." I sat back down. I calmly folded my hands on the table. "Remember when you went to see Mr. Henderson months ago? When Mark tried to find out about my financial situation?" Mark turned pale. "How do you know?" "Because Mr. Henderson is my lawyer, Mark. And he told me everything. He told me how you tried to have me declared incompetent. How you wanted to take my money. How you've been planning this for months." "Mom, I was just worried about you." "Liar!" My voice echoed in the restaurant. "You were worried about your mortgage, about your debts, about maintaining your lifestyle at my expense." Jessica shot up from her seat. "I'm not staying here to listen to this. Let's go, Mark." "Sit down, Jessica," said a voice from behind. Mr. Henderson had approached our table. He had his briefcase in his hand. "Who are you?" she demanded. "I am Mr. Henderson, Eleanor's attorney, and I have documents here that prove every allegation she has just made. If you try to leave without resolving this, I will proceed legally immediately." Jessica fell back into her chair, defeated. Mark was looking at me with a mixture of hatred and desperation. "What do you want, Mom? Money? Revenge? To see us on the street?" "I want you to learn," I answered, my voice firm. "I want you to understand that love is not bought, not begged for, and not trampled on. I want you to know what it feels like to be against the wall, with no options, depending on the mercy of someone you hurt." I stood up. I took my purse. "You have 30 days to pay me. If you don't, you lose the house. And believe me, I will not hesitate." But we don't have that money," Mark whispered. "There's no way to get it in 30 days. "Then maybe you should have thought of that before you humiliated me, before you treated me like I was worthless." I walked toward the exit. Mr. Henderson followed me. Behind us, I heard Jessica's sob and Mark's broken voice. "Mom, please." I didn't turn around, because for the first time in my life, I wasn't going to save anyone but myself. But what happened in the following days showed me that I had underestimated just how far they were willing to go, and when I found out about their latest move, I knew the war had only just begun. The days after that dinner were a whirlwind. Mark called me 63 times in 1 week. I changed my phone number. Then he started sending emails. I blocked his address. He showed up at my building. I asked the doorman not to let him up. But where Mark failed, Jessica became more dangerous. A week after the dinner, Carol called me at 11 o'clock at night, hysterical. "Eleanor, you have to see this. What is it?" Jessica made a video. A damn video, crying on TikTok. It already has over 50,000 views. She sent me the link. I opened it with a knot in my stomach. There was Jessica, sitting in her living room, her eyes red and swollen, makeup streaked, speaking to the camera between sobs. "Hi, everyone. I never thought I'd have to do this, but I need you to listen. My mother-in-law, whom we welcomed into our home for 3 years, is extorting us. She lent us money to save our house, and now she's using abusive clauses to take it from us. She says we lied, but we were just trying to survive. My husband is devastated. I'm in therapy. I don't know what to do. If anyone knows a lawyer who can help us, pro bono, please, write to me. We have nowhere else to go. Hashtags, help, toxic family, extortion." The comments were a mix. "Oh no, friend, what a horrible situation. Mothers-in-law are always the problem. But there were others too. Wait, aren't you the one who gave her mother-in-law a mop for Christmas? Something doesn't add up here. Why don't you show the contract you signed? If you signed something, that's on you. Don't blame others." I lay back on my bed, breathing deeply. Jessica was playing the public victim card. She was smart, but I had learned to be smarter. The next day, I went to Mr. Henderson's office with a proposal. "Mr. Henderson, I want to do this right. I want everything to be legal, transparent, irrefutable. What do you have in mind? I want to make a final offer, a real chance for them to pay, but with witnesses, recordings, everything documented, so that when the time comes to take the house, no one can say, 'I didn't give them options.'" Mr. Henderson smiled with approval. "You are much smarter than they think." We prepared everything meticulously. A formal meeting at the law office, with a notary public present, with everything recorded on video for legal purposes. I sent the summons to Mark through the lawyer. Meeting on Friday, March 10th, at 10 o'clock in the morning, at the law office of Mr. Henderson. Attendance is mandatory per the terms of the contract. A proposed solution will be discussed. They arrived on time, but they looked finished. Mark had lost more weight. He had deep, dark circles under his eyes. Jessica wore her hair in a simple ponytail, no makeup, simple clothes, trying to look vulnerable. The conference room was formal. A long mahogany table, leather chairs, a recorder on the table, a camera on a tripod. The notary public, a 60-year-old man with thick glasses, was already seated, reviewing documents. "Good morning," I said when they entered. They didn't respond. They just sat on the other side of the table. Mr. Henderson began. "We are here to discuss the outstanding debt of $234,000 that Mr. Mark Herrera and Mrs. Jessica Herrera owe to Mrs. Eleanor. This meeting is being recorded for legal purposes. Any objections?" "None," Mark muttered. "Good. Mrs. Eleanor, you have the floor." I leaned forward, my hands clasped on the table. "Mark, Jessica, I have summoned you here because I am going to do something you may not deserve, but that I need to do for my own peace. I'm going to give you one last chance." Mark looked up, hopeful. "What kind of chance? You have the full debt, $234,000. I know you can't pay it, but I'm going to offer you something. I am going to forgive the 30% surcharge. The debt reverts to its original amount, $180,000. Mom, I'm not finished. You have 90 days to pay that amount, 3 months. If you succeed, the house reverts to your name, and I will walk away from your lives completely." 3 months is still impossible," Jessica said, her voice trembling. "Let me finish. If you cannot pay in 3 months, then you accept the following. I take possession of the house, but I will give you an additional 6 months to find somewhere else to live. I will not throw you out on the street immediately. I will give you time." Mark looked at me, incredulous. "Why would you do that?" "Because despite everything, Mark, you are still my son, and because I want you to understand something. This isn't revenge. This is justice. There is a difference." I took out a new document. "This is a modified agreement, with the new terms. If you sign it, you commit to trying to pay in 90 days. If you cannot, you surrender the house without legal fights. And I will help you financially during those 6 additional months, with $3,000 a month, so you can rent a decent place. Jessica choked back a sob. Why are you doing this? Because I am not like you. I don't enjoy the suffering of others. But I also will not allow myself to be trampled on ever again. Mr. Henderson placed the document in front of them. You have 2 options. Sign this agreement, which is generous considering the circumstances, or go to court, where you will lose definitively and without any additional considerations. Mark took the document. He read it line by line. Tears began to roll down his cheeks. We're not going to get the money in 3 months, Mom. You know that. I know. That's why this agreement is realistic. I am giving you time and support to get back on your feet. But the house, Mark, the house is no longer yours. That is the consequence of your decisions. The house where we plan to start our family, Jessica whispered. I looked her straight in the eye. That house where you kept me in a storage room, where you humiliated me, where you turned my room into your closet before I was even gone. Don't talk to me about family, Jessica. You don't know what that word means. She looked down. Mark picked up the pen. He stared at the document for a long minute. Then, with a shaking hand, he signed. Jessica followed. The notary certified the signatures. Done, Mr. Henderson said. You have 90 days from today. June 10th is the deadline. If you have not paid by then, we will proceed with the transfer of property. Mark stood up. He looked at me with a mix of pain and something that might have been respect. Do you know what the worst part of all this is, Mom? What? That you were right about everything, and I was too blind to see it. You weren't blind, Mark. You were just selfish. They left the office in silence. When the door closed, Mr. Henderson leaned back in his chair. You were generous. I was fair. And now? Now, I wait. And I live my life. The next 3 months were the most peaceful I'd had in years. I enrolled in a painting class at a local gallery. My instructor, a young artist named Leo, told me I had a natural talent. I sold my first painting for $300. It wasn't much, but the feeling of creating something with my own hands, something someone valued, was priceless. Beatrice became my best friend. We traveled to Santa Fe together for a week. We ate amazing Southwestern food, bought turquoise jewelry, and walked through the historic plazas. I felt young again. Carol visited me every Sunday. We cooked together, laughed, and reminisced about our childhood. She told me once, I haven't seen you this happy since before Arthur died. It's because I'm finally me again, Carrie. Mark wrote me twice during those 3 months. Formal emails. Mom, we've been saving, but it's hard. I just want you to know we're trying. I didn't reply. There was nothing to say. On June 9th, one day before the deadline, Mr. Henderson called me. Eleanor, Mark just deposited $200,000. I froze. What? I don't know where he got the money, but he did. He deposited the full amount, $200,000. He even overpaid the required amount. How is that possible? You'll have to ask him. I called Mark. He answered on the first ring. Hello, Mom. Where did you get the money? He let out a long sigh. We sold everything. The motorcycle, Jessica's car, jewelry, furniture. I took loans from friends. My boss advanced me 6 months' salary. And we sold the walk-in closet. Every bag, every shoe, every designer thing. Everything. Jessica agreed to that. Jessica is in real therapy now. Not for show, but for real. When she saw we were going to lose everything, something changed in her. Or maybe she just realized what actually matters. There was a long silence. Mom, I know money doesn't erase what we did. I know you'll probably never forgive me. But I want you to know something. These last 3 months were the worst of my life, and also the most important. Because I understood what it feels like to be desperate, with no options, depending on someone's mercy. I understood what we made you feel for 3 years. Tears began to roll down my cheeks. Mark, I don't expect you to forgive me. I just hope that one day when you see me, you don't feel pain. That would be enough for me. He hung up before I could answer. And so, we reached the end of this story. But the true closing was still missing. The moment where I decided what to do with everything I had gained and everything I had lost. 3 months later. It was September. The air was starting to turn crisp in the mornings. The dogwood trees were blooming in the park across from my apartment, painting the sidewalks white. I was on my small balcony, drinking coffee and painting a canvas, a landscape from Santa Fe I had photographed on my trip with Beatrice. The warm colors made me feel at peace. My phone vibrated. It was Mr. Henderson. "Good morning, Eleanor. Do you have time today? There's something we need to discuss. Did something happen?" "Nothing bad. I just need you to come to the office." I arrived an hour later. Mr. Henderson was waiting for me with a mysterious smile and a folder on his desk. "Sit down. I have news." "What kind of news?" He opened the folder and took out documents. "Mark and Jessica have complied with everything religiously. They paid the full debt 3 months ago, but they've also been depositing additional money into an escrow account, $50 a week, as a sign of commitment," they said. I was speechless. Why would they do that? "I think they've really changed, Eleanor. Or at least, they're trying." I looked at the bank statements. Sure enough, there were the deposits. Small but constant. 20 weeks in a row. "There's something else," Mr. Henderson continued. "Mark asked me to give you this." He handed me an envelope. I opened it with trembling hands. Inside was a handwritten letter, Mark's handwriting. The one I had taught him when he was 6 years old. "Mom, I know a letter doesn't erase 3 years of abuse. I know money doesn't buy forgiveness. But I need you to read this, even if you never want to speak to me again. Jessica and I sold the house. Yes, even though we had already paid the debt, we decided to sell it. We couldn't keep living in a place that represented everything we did wrong. Every room reminded me of how we treated you. The dining room where we wouldn't let you sit. The living room we forbade you from using. That storage room where we kept you as if you were nobody. We sold the house for $700,000. We paid off the rest of the mortgage. And with what was left over, we did something that I hope will make you feel, I don't know if proud, but at least less disappointed. We donated $200,000 to a shelter for elderly people suffering from family abuse. In your name. The shelter is now called Eleanor's House. We also bought a small apartment. No luxuries. 2 bedrooms, a simple living room. We're learning to live with less. And you know what we discovered? We're happier this way. Jessica is working. She gave up her obsession with appearances. She sells baked goods from home. She makes pies and cakes. She's doing well. I'm still at my job, but now I save every dollar. We have no more debt. Mom, I will never stop regretting what I did. Every night before I go to sleep, I think about that mop, about your face when we gave it to you, about how we humiliated you. And it hurts so much I wish I could turn back time. But I can't. I can only try to be better. I'm not asking you to forgive me. I'm only asking that one day, if we pass each other on the street, you don't cross to the other side. That would be enough. With love and eternal shame, Mark." The tears were streaming down my face, unchecked. Mr. Henderson quietly passed me a tissue. "Is it true? About the shelter?" I asked in a broken voice. "Completely true. I helped with the legal paperwork. The shelter exists. It's already operational. It's serving 10 seniors who were rescued from abusive family situations." I brought my hands to my mouth. "Eleanor's House. Your name is honoring something beautiful, Eleanor. Something born from pain, but which has become hope for others." I sat in silence for a long time, processing, feeling. "What do you want to do?" Mr. Henderson asked. "Mark isn't asking to see you. He just wanted you to know." I folded the letter carefully. "I need to think." I left the office with the letter in my purse. I walked aimlessly through downtown. I passed the cathedral, the market, the streets where Arthur and I used to walk when we were dating so many years ago. I sat on a bench in the main square. I watched the pigeons pecking at crumbs, the young couples taking photos, the children running with balloons. And then I knew what to do. 2 weeks later, on a Saturday morning, I stood in front of the building where Mark now lived. It was a modest building, 4 floors, a simple facade, no doorman. I buzzed apartment 3B. Jessica's voice came over the intercom, nervous. "Who is it?" It's Eleanor. Silence. Then the buzz of the door unlocking. I walked up the stairs slowly. My heart was pounding, but not with fear, with something different, something like cautious hope. The apartment door was ajar. I stepped inside. The place was small but clean. Simple furniture, no frills. It smelled like fresh coffee and something sweet baking. Mark was standing in the middle of the living room, his eyes red. Jessica was behind him, her hands clasped, also crying. "Mom," Mark whispered. I didn't run to hug him. I wasn't ready for that yet. But I didn't stay by the door either. I read your letter. I didn't expect you to come. I came because I need to tell you something. Something you need to hear, and I need to say. I sat on the sofa. They remained standing, like children awaiting a verdict. What you did to me was unforgivable, and I will carry that wound for the rest of my life. I can't just forget 3 years of humiliation. It doesn't work like that. Mark nodded, tears rolling. But, I continued, I can't carry hatred either, because hatred is heavy, Mark. It's as heavy as sadness, and I don't want to carry heavy things anymore. What does that mean? Jessica asked, her voice trembling. It means I won't forget, but I am going to try to forgive. Not for you, for me, because I deserve peace. I stood up. I saw what you did with the shelter. I saw the constant deposits. I saw how you sold the house even when you didn't have to. And I see that you are, at least, trying to change. Mom, I held up my hand. I don't want you to say anything right now. Just listen. I'm going to give you my new number. I'm going to allow you to write to me. I don't promise to answer every time. I don't promise frequent visits. But I am going to leave the door ajar. Just ajar. If you have truly changed, over time, maybe that door will open more. Mark collapsed onto the sofa, sobbing. Thank you, Mom. Thank you. Don't thank me. This isn't a gift. It's an opportunity you have to earn every single day. If you fail again, if you lie again, if you disrespect me again, that door closes forever. Understood? They both nodded. I walked to the exit. At the door, I stopped. One more thing. That shelter, Eleanor's house. I want to volunteer there. Mark looked up, stunned. Really? Really? If my pain can help others, then it wasn't in vain. I left the apartment. I walked down the stairs. And when I reached the street, I took a deep breath. It wasn't pure happiness I felt. It was something more complex. It was peace mixed with sadness, hope mixed with caution, forgiveness mixed with memory. It was, simply, moving forward. 6 months later, I was at Eleanor's house, the shelter, helping a 75-year-old woman who had just arrived. Her name was Refuge, ironically. Her children had kept her in a windowless room, feeding her scraps. I don't know if I can recover from this, she told me, her voice broken. I took her hand. I didn't know if I could either. But look at me now. You too? Me too. That's why I understand your pain, and that's why I know you can get through this. Her eyes filled with tears, but also with something else. Hope. That night, back in my apartment, I sat on my balcony with a cup of tea. Carol had visited. Beatrice, too. We had dinner together, laughed, and planned a trip to Charleston for December. My phone vibrated. It was a message from Mark. It wasn't the first. In 6 months, he had written every week. Short, respectful messages. Never asking for anything, just sharing his life. Mom, Jessica baked an apple pie with your recipe. It came out perfect. We thought of you, sending you a hug. This time, for the first time in months, I replied. I'm glad the recipe worked out. Take care. It was small, but it was a step. Because I had learned something through this whole process. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. Forgiveness means deciding that the past will not control your present. It means letting go, not for the other person, but for yourself. And I had decided to let go. I looked at the stars. I thought of Arthur, of how he had taught me that true love never humiliates, never belittles, never tramples. Thank you, my love, I whispered to the wind, for teaching me my worth, for leaving me the resources to defend myself, for loving me even in your absence. A shooting star crossed the sky. I made a wish. I didn't wish for wealth. I didn't wish for revenge. I didn't wish for time to turn back. I wished for peace. For me, for everyone who had been hurt like I was, for everyone who felt they were worthless. And in that moment, sitting on my balcony, with my hot tea, my new friends, my work at the shelter, my paintings on the walls, my independence reclaimed, I realized that my wish had already come true. Final reflection. If you are listening to this story and you identify with it, I want you to know something. You are worthy. It doesn't matter how long you've endured mistreatment. It doesn't matter how many times they've told you you're a burden. It doesn't matter how many metaphorical mops they've given you. You are worthy. And it is never, ever too late to reclaim your dignity. Because true wealth isn't in what you possess, but in what you refuse to let anyone take from you. Your self-worth, your dignity, your right to be treated with respect. I was lucky to have financial resources to defend myself, but the true strength didn't come from the money. It came from understanding that I deserved more, and that understanding costs nothing. It is available to everyone. If you are in a similar situation, seek help. Talk to someone you trust. Research your rights. Don't stay silent thinking you have no options. There are always options. And if today you feel invisible, remember, the strongest people are those who learn to shine after being put out. I was put out for 3 years, but now I shine with my own light. And you can too. My name is Eleanor. I am 69 years old, and this is my story of how a Christmas mop became the best gift I ever received because it woke me up. Sometimes, the worst moments of your life are the beginning of your best chapter. You just have to have the courage to turn the page. If this story touched your heart, if it made you reflect, if you know someone who needs to hear it, please share it. Leave a comment telling me where you're joining us from. Give it a like if you believe that respect for our elders is non-negotiable. And subscribe to keep listening to stories of life, overcoming, and reclaimed dignity. Because we all deserve to be treated with love. But above all, we all deserve to treat ourselves with love. Until the next story. And remember, it's never too late to start over. End.